Hello YouTube, and welcome back to Quails, Bees, and Gardens. Thank you so much for tuning back in today. If you had a look at my introduction video, I just want to let you know that there may be some pauses within the taping of this video. I realized in my introduction that I use a lot the word and I don't want to take away from what I'm talking about by using the word so many times. So if I pause a few seconds longer than normal, it's just me trying to change the behavior in my brain that is making me say so much. So if you could just bear with me through that process. So one of the things in my introductory video that I said I would do is to do a recap of the bee class that I'm taking. So I will be doing that. Just a brief overview. It's not going to take that long. I also said that I would specifically let you know how I came about finding the beekeeping class, and that's what I'll go into right now. What I did was I just did a simple Google search. I dropped beekeeping classes in the search engine, and it returned results. And I'm still saying and from the searches that were returned, I chose the beekeeping class that I thought was better for me, and that was, I did see the beekeeping class that was offered by the county. Just for me, I felt like that is the route I want to go. Whether it has any real basis or not, I just felt like I would be getting the best information because it was coming from the county. And just like I mentioned in my first video, when I was talking about the quail, when I was talking about the quail, and I shared that there's so many areas you can go with the raising of quail, it's also a lot of areas you can go as far as when you get into beekeeping. And one of the things that made me choose to go with the county is the fact that if you go through the class, you have the opportunity, and I don't think you really need to go through their class, but if you go through their process and they deem you an adequate beekeeper, then you're able to be placed on a list, on the county list. And what that does is you have people who realize and understand that although they may have a bee infestation, for the lack of a better word, or swarm or hive on their property that they don't want there. And because they don't want to interrupt the ecosystem by using chemicals and killing them off, they could contact the county, and this list of beekeepers are able to go out, they can choose from, and they are able to go out and remove the hives naturally. And so a person can have the satisfaction of solving their own problem and without causing another problem. So they're able to get rid of the bees, which they don't want, and at the same time they can do it and not add to the problem that we have with the shortage. of the bees. There's that again, so please forgive me. So, like I said, my first bee class was on last Thursday. I think that was the 8th, February the 8th. And it did cover a lot of information. The introductory of the syllabus, which is chock full of information. So they talked about where you would place the bees, and if you have been looking at any other beekeeping videos, you know that they say that the beehive should be south facing, and what that means is it should be facing the part of your yard that gets the most and full sun. Also, of course, we know that we need to be particular where we place the hive. It needs to be out of the path where humans, where people have a high access. They need to be to themselves, for them and for people, obviously. Also, they talked about the fact that they need to have a adequate water source. Like if your property has a yard, if your property has a pond or something like that, that's good. But you don't have to. One of a major requirement is that they are always have access to water, and that's something that you can provide for them yourself in a container or some kind of setup that's connected to their hive, sits on their hive, or right outside the hive so they can get to. And an interesting point that they made regarding that is they need water, and they will travel to find that water, and that could be several houses down the street from you. I forget the radius, but they will go far looking for water. And if the water source that they find is more than you are able to provide for them, you could lose your bees because there's not adequate water being provided where you have your setup. And it's the same with foliage, so they can be able to have food to bring back to the hive. So you have to make sure that they are placed in an area where it's a lot of foliage, flowers, and whatnot that they can feed on. And you can research the different types of foliage that they consume. And if you're able to, and you don't quite yet have that to be able to provide for them, you can plant it, plant flowers and the different types of things that they nourish themselves with. So we talked about that. They also talked about the equipment that you use to maintain the bees, the smoker that you use. And they haven't got to this yet, but I know just from looking at other beekeeping videos, the smoker that they use whenever they're approaching the bees, that smoke calms them down and allows you to do what you need to do as far as maintaining their living space, for lack of a better word, and not be afraid of getting stung so much. So and they talked about like the tools that you use to actually open the box, because if I noticed on a lot of videos, when they go to open the box to check the frames, there's this, it's stuck all the time. You think it's just being a newbie, you know it's not honey, but it's like, what's causing it to stick? So they produce something, it's not a wax, but it's like a sealant. And so they have that tool that they have to pry the top of that box off. And it's called propolis or something like that. And come to find out, some people use that as a tincture. It has properties that you can use in your body. We can talk more about that if you're into herbs and tinctures and stuff like that. But another thing they talked about is the actual garb, the dress, and they went through the pros and cons of the different styles of garments that you can cover yourself up with when you're dealing with the bees. When I get ready to purchase my garbs, I will include you all in that process and let you know why I chose the type of garb that I chose based on the information that I received in the class. Also, they talked about the startup cost to be a beekeeper, and it was a little over $2,000. Well, the box setup that you keep the bees in, they sell it for $275. And on top of that, they suggest that you get two. They suggest that you start out with 2 boxes for comparison reasons, and it just, to me, it just doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money. That's $275 times 2. $275 times 2. And I'm not in a position to put that kind of finances into the startup for the bees. I have other hobbies that I do that require a part of my financial budget also. I have the trellises. I need to think about building for the vegetables that I'm growing, my tomatoes and cucumbers that I'll be growing, and anything that needs to be trellised up. I have to be on top of how I'm going to manage that. And as far as my quail, they are in cages right now, and I would like to put them in a free range environment. So that means building an aviary. And then just to think about the bees and how long, they've been here since the beginning of time, and they have managed to provide their own homes and what have you, without the interference of man. So what I will be doing is looking up some DIYs, because if you go to the description of my channel and you read that, you'll see that I like to find other solutions if things just don't make logical sense for me. So they did talk about things that is gonna help me and guide me to picking a DIY that's going to make me successful. They did, however, discourage going online and buying the bee setup yourself, which is what I was thinking that I would do initially, but it makes sense why they discourage, because that setup that you're buying, you don't know what has happened in that setup as far as the bees, a disease going through the bees that were kept in that setup, a problem with the wood. I think they called it mites or something. And then so when you get the setup, unbeknownst to you, you could potentially have inherited some type of problem that's going to be problematic to your bees and the success of them surviving and you being able to keep them. So that's what made me decide to do my own DIY setup. So as I research that information and decide on what way I will go, if that's something I will be sharing that on this channel. So in case people are interested, they will be able to see how I got around it. Like I said, I just believe that I can bypass that. So that was the recap as far as I can remember for this week, or last week. So this Thursday I'll have my second beekeeping class, and I will be making a video about that. Also, I started up potting or up cupping some of my vegetable transplants and separating them out and trying to keep as many seedlings as I can. I have a lot more that I need to do that way, but I did get started with that. But I don't want to get too far in the process, because I want you to see from the beginning how I started and how I'm progressing and my trials and errors. I don't want to hide anything, from you, because I want us to learn together. So some of the transplants that I did get done, I'm noticing I need to do a research on, because some of the petals, I don't like how they look, some of them. And I know there's something called transplant shock, and you really have to prepare the soil and stuff that you do whenever you separate these seedlings and put them in their own little environment. So there is stuff that you need to do there. So I did want to share that with you, and hopefully I'll be able to get 2 videos out this week regarding that. So I will end this video now. I didn't want it to be too long. So for those that saw my introductory video and you are here, I really do appreciate you, and I thank you for returning to my channel. I also encourage you to like the video if you like it. For those that this is the first video that you've seen, I would like to welcome you to my channel. I hope that the information that you have heard is something that you are interested in hearing more about, or even being inspired to go on this journey with me. So you're welcomed here, and I appreciate you. And so I encourage you all to like the video. If you have a comment, please comment in the comment section, and let's get an engagement started. And also, if you think this information will be beneficial to someone you know, if you would consider sharing the video. So thanks again for tuning in with me, and I will see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.